It's just what I need too, by the way. All right, we'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first item of business is approval of the minutes, regular board meeting September 8th, 2025. We've all had a chance to see it. Anybody have any additions, subtractions, corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the minutes from September 8th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Next item is the monthly transactions. Approval of general fund vouchers 82,645 through 82,737, voiding 82,519, and the wire transfers 2026-0063 through 2026-0108. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the general fund vouchers and wire transfers as read.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the general fund vouchers and wire transfers. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Next time of business, public comments. Nobody is here from the public unless anyone here's that got anything they'd like to share. The next time of business then is the board business, the approval of resignations and retirements. Mr. Peterson.
All right. Well, okay, my computer's going a little slow here now, but all right. We have one resignation. Kristen Lavery, one of our junior senior high school office secretaries, submitted her resignation a few weeks ago. She took another position that is going to take her elsewhere. So she's been here for 15 years, and just changes with her family and kids growing up and opportunities. So that's our one resignation we have.
I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the resignation.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve our resignation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business are the approval of our hires.
Okay, we've got three here. So one of them is elementary special education paraprofessional, and that is Tanya Dix. And if the board might recall, we were in a mode where we weren't necessarily going to be replacing all of the paras that we had a few that departed or moved to different positions last summer. We weren't necessarily going to replace them all, but we have had some students, a flurry of students moved in late summer with IEPs and multiples that had one-to-one aides assigned to them and so on. So we've needed to, basically we're back to the level where we were last year. So but anyway, so that's a side note, but Tanya Dix as a paraprofessional. We also have as a elementary food service employee, Jennifer Winchell, a part-time position there in food service. And also just today, related to our resignation we just had. So that was submitted back on September 15th. So we interviewed last week, and we're like to bring forward Megan Wallen as our new high school administrative assistant.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the new hires.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve our new hires. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is the approval of winter coaching roster.
Okay, and you'll note that there's a couple of positions still to be determined, but we have our crew from last year basically back. So our girls basketball head coach Mel Lewis, assistant is to be determined. Don't have a replacement there yet. High school boys basketball, the same coaches as last year. Mr. Sargent, assisted by Josh Trepanier, and the C squad Tyson Blanchard, and I think we'll easily have numbers again for a C squad. High school wrestling returning Jason Wood and Matt Anderson. We did post for a third position given the changes with how the girls wrestling needs to operate. Most districts are doing this. We have not filled that position yet. Junior high boys basketball, Larry Ramus and Bailey Blanchard. Junior high girls basketball, Christy Arcand and Mallory Vienendahl. And then junior high wrestling, returning is Ed Mago, and then we're still looking for another assistant coach there too. So,
all right, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the winter coaching roster.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the winter coaching roster. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the Start College Now and Early College Credit Program applications.
Yeah, so this, again, these are for second semester of this school year. And these are, basically what the board is doing is approving these college credits that we're going to accept them for high school credit here too. So I'll let Mr. Melberg, if there's any other questions, or we can't talk about, the names of the applications specifically, but you can review them there. And if Mr. Melberg's got anything to add or any questions for him.
So this is available to juniors and seniors. We do this twice a year, once for each semester. And so all the students you see listed there for Start College Now and Early College Credit have turned in their application and indicated what classes they would like to take. As Mr. Peterson said, we ask that you approve these credits to be counted as high school credits, and then we have criteria in place that they have to meet in order for us to pay for those courses. I will say one addition here is that we do have 2 students on here who have maxed out the number of credits that we pay for. State statute says 18 credits. Both those students and parents are aware, and they're just looking for you to still approve the credits, and they're going to pay out of their own pocket for the above the 18 credits that they've maxed out.
Nice. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the Start College Now and Early College Credit Program apps.
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the Start College Now and Early College Credit Program apps. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the review of the emergency and safety drills.
Okay, so every year I submit a report to the Department of Justice. I can't remember the name of the act going back 7, 8 years now, 8, 10 years. But it mandates that we do certain safety drills every year. So they like to see a record board agenda that we've discussed them and reviewed them. So I've just attached every year we do in the fall as we start up the school year, both buildings, we do a fire drill. Fire drills are monthly as the weather allows, and then we do a severe weather drill in the fall and the spring, and then we also start out the year doing a hold drill within the first couple of weeks too. And then most times the Clear Lake Police Department will come in and just do a walkthrough with the hold while we do the hold drill. And then we also, just as a side note too, we try to get together with the CLPD in August. So Chief Hucks came in and just discussed our safety plans with us in August, and just had general, just good conversation and communication and connections there between law enforcement and the school for safety. So.
Okay. Next item of business is consideration / approval of junior high wrestling co-op with Clayton School District.
Yep. Well, and it'd be junior and senior high wrestling co-op. And so just some background here. And so we've been kind of doing background discussions about this going back to early summer. Clayton School District reached out to us and inquired whether we might be interested in co-oping in wrestling. They've had a long-standing co-op with Turtle Lake in wrestling for quite a few years. I don't know how long. But as some people might know, Clayton is co-oping for all sports except for wrestling with Prairie Farm. They've been phasing into that, but by next year I believe all sports will be that way. And so anyway, they were exploring their options with wrestling because Prairie Farm already has a long-standing co-op with Chautauqua Weyerhaeuser, and they practice in Chautauqua. And so Clayton felt like it might be a better fit to perhaps go with us. So they reached out to us. We met with their admin team this summer just to kind of feel out, like, okay, what kind of partnership are they looking for, and what kind of expectations they were having for a partnership. And then, there was nothing there that we found objectionable. So then the next thing, we talked to the coach and we talked to the wrestling club president, who also coordinates the youth wrestling program, and just had a conversation with them and kind of brainstormed and asked questions. Kind of also allowed them a chance to kind of ask around and talk to some people, kind of word of mouth, and get a feel for things. And then we scheduled a parent meeting. We had that September 23rd. I know a couple of you were able to make it, which was great. Invited all of the parents and athletes 6 through 12 because they're the ones currently affected by it if we were to do this. So we invited all of them. Not a huge turnout. people are busy. It was, I think, a Tuesday night, but the people that were there gave good feedback, asked good questions. After that, we also sent out a survey to all the same constituents, the wrestlers and the parents 6 through 12, to just ask their feedback if they couldn't make it to the meeting, or if they had, just to reach out to other people. Sent a reminder out a week later just to make sure. So anyway, along the way, seemed to be quite a bit of support for it. Not really. I personally have not had anybody register any opposition. I don't think Mr. Rosine has either. I don't know if Mr. Melberg has. I know that you're not unanimous on the survey, but it's like 80% of people, and there's not a ton of respondents, but over 80% of people are saying they think it's probably a good idea. So if you'll notice, if we look through the slideshow that was shared with the parents that night, it's kind of where you get into the details of it, which is important. So again, kind of review of the timeline there that I just kind of walked through. So they're looking for a partnership for middle school and high school. For the varsity for the high school, that would not be till next year, 2026-27. So we're talking a year out from now. So that would give time for us to get approval from the conference and then also from the WIAA. If we were to move forward with this, and if both boards were to agree to this co-op, which I know Clayton would like to, middle school can start right away. Middle school is not under the WIAA, so they could start right away this January 26th. And then the other part of the discussion, it's not directly related to the school. The youth program is not run by the school. However, that was part of the conversation, is just like, hey, that's why we talked to the wrestling club president to say, hey, if we're going to have a partnership at the high school level, then it would make sense for the youth to kind of work together too. And our youth program leaders seemed all for it. They said, in fact, there's already some Clayton kids attending. So the name would be the Clear Lake Clayton Co-op with the WIAA. Clear Lake would be the lead school, and we would be the host, and so on. We would continue to continue to be the Warriors, wear royal blue. No plans to change that. Clayton's not asking for that. They're not coming in saying they want co-equal. They're saying, we're going to have a handful of wrestlers. We would just like an opportunity for them to compete somewhere and be part of it. The one thing they did say is, okay, if we're many years down the road and the program becomes and grows and it is more half and half, maybe then, we would talk about things like that, but not at this point. And a comparison that was made was sort of like how we have Clear Lake students competing on the Amory hockey program. We have 1 or 2 kids, participating, and same name, and so on, but kind of a similar situation is what they were envisioning. What else? Another big question is, would the enrollment push us up to another division? And the short answer is no, not even close. So we'd be fine in that regard if we combine the 2 enrollments. Let's see. They shared some numbers of students that are currently in their program. It's no guarantee that all these students will actually, come out and do it. That's not necessarily the case, but it's just a good estimate. So we're talking, a couple of wrestlers per grade level going down to youth, and some possibilities for numbers. So it would not make our numbers such that we would have too many kids or have to cut or anything. We wouldn't do that. We don't have that policy. So those are some of the big questions, I guess. Budget was another one, like cost. So they would split costs with us proportionally. So let's say, just to make the math easy, let's say there's 20 kids and 15 are Clear Lake and 5 are Clayton. They would pay that percentage. Transportation, they would be responsible, or their athletes, to get themselves to Clear Lake for practice and to get picked up in Clear Lake or to go home. For matches, all they would ask is, if we're driving north, swing through Clayton and pick up the Clayton kids. If we're heading south, they would come here and get on the bus and go that way. So those, we just talked through the real practical stuff like that, and everybody seemed to be on the same page.
2-year. So just every 2 years.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a 2-year commitment. So if we were to agree to do it and apply to WI, it's 2 years. Every year you have to re-up it. So that's another good question that came up at the parent meeting is, it's not like we're assigning this forever.
We did this in the past with Clayton in the 90s, I believe.
We have,
So,
yeah. Yeah, that was brought up too, and we did used to co-op with them, so. Other questions, the board, I was just trying to recap everything that's kind of been talked about. I know it's kind of a lot, but questions, comments?
I haven't heard no negative feedback to any extent, and I asked around again, so I think it's,
Well, with...
People seem concerned about the space. Is that a valid concern? At the parent meeting, a lot of people were just like, it's too small of a room. We can't unroll our mats, we don't have practice space.
I think,
I do hear that quite a bit too.
I think the biggest space issue comes from the youth.
yeah.
Which isn't necessarily ours.
Right. Okay.
It doesn't come from, I mean, yes, we are, when the middle school sometimes is, we can get full in there, but not beyond capacity. And so the youth, it's not ours, and potentially they just need to look at spreading out the nights.
Okay.
Yeah, we are, well, even one of the club leaders commented how when they were in high school here in this wrestling room, how they had a lot more wrestlers than we have now, so I think we're good. Obviously, everybody would love more space in there, but yeah, I agree with Brian. I think it's more, a lot of that conversation maybe coming from the youth aspect, and they just need to divide up their practices more. So,
And we hope that the amount of room becomes a problem
yeah,
all the way through.
yeah, be a good problem to have. People that kind of spoke comments in favor of it were, feeling, and people in person, and some of you heard just some of the kids and the adults, just bigger team, more kids, more competition in the room, more weight classes filled out, less forfeits, and just an opportunity for more kids to wrestle and to build camaraderie and get to know more kids and all the good things that all about high school athletics. So if there's other questions or.
Sounds like a no-brainer.
The timeline would be if the board would want to approve it tonight, then we would notify Clayton of that. I'm guessing they would approve theirs at their next meeting too. And Turtle Lake is certainly aware of the conversations that they're having with us too, that they reached out. So.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to have Clayton join Clear Lake for co-op wrestling.
all second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the junior senior high wrestling co-op with Clayton. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the review of the third Friday count and other related DPI reports.
Okay. So yeah,
Just
oh, yeah.
going back, I just want to commend you for doing a good job and getting everybody together on that and making sure it was a good decision. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that was from the get-go, and Mr. Rosine, and I mean, their superintendent reached out to me, but immediately got Mr. Rosine, Mr. Melberg involved, and definitely, good relationship with the admin team there in Clayton, and yeah, definitely.
Involving the parents and
wanted to,
the
yeah.
students and.
That's what we said from the get-go is we're not gonna. If that's not something that our families want to do, we're not gonna. It really doesn't matter to us, we're happy to do it, but if it's not something that people want to do,
Can we get them to open and roll here? That would help her.
Yeah, let's take them all. If you want to wrestle here.
That would be the best.
I didn't bring that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to review the third Friday people count. This is one of the big reports we do in September, and so I kind of geek out a little bit on looking at all the enrollment data and the stuff. So the first document there is just the report that actually goes to the DPI, and just a reminder. So there's a difference between enrollment count and pupil and head count, I should say. So pupil count or enrollment count is when you take all the students and you factor in open enrollment. So the kids who actually live in our district, open and roll out, we count those, which is odd because they don't go to school here. And then the kids who are out enrolling in, we subtract them out, and then we make a payment to the other school, and the other schools make a payment to us. So So when people say, how many kids go to school here, it's actually a little more complicated question. I've said that before. The second document there is our actual head count. So if that's just of interest, you can just sort of see how many kids are actually sitting in desks in the different grade levels. And as we've talked about for years, you know, our numbers are declining. Our two biggest classes last year were sophomores, juniors, seniors. This is our juniors and seniors. And then we have classes down in the 40s and 30s. Below that, we have one very small class in first grade right now. Historically, and we are seeing this like with the middle school classes, we do tend to historically add a couple kids per grade level as we go up. We tend to not shrink as they go through the grades. We tend to add a couple here and there. And then that was true this year again. So, you know, when we project these forward, the numbers, you know, there's some small enrollments there, but I also think that's usually the worst case scenario. It usually does go up a couple kids per class. But yeah, so we have 521 students pre-K through 12 walking our hallways. And well, this also counts students who are participating in virtual. We have less than 10 doing that. But this, you can see the breakdown of open enrollment in, open enrollment out. We have closed the gap with the ins and outs. We had a gap that was you know, bigger years ago. It's been shrinking. If you click the third document in there, this is also part of the DPI report that we generate, but this shows, so the adjusted count is, you know, factoring in open enrollment in and out. So really, you know, from last year to this year, our count, I should say, is only down by 6 pupils when you factor in open enrollment. So that mitigates it a little bit. Let's see, head count, that's just kind of, it's interesting to look at the high school, like when we talk about activities or with our conference or the WIA, kind of projecting out how many high school students we'll have going forward. And you can see how we settle down into the 160s and 150s, which is historically small for us. We were back in the 150s and 160s back like 2012, 13, 14. We did have a dip down back that low then too. The very last document, I know I'm breezing through these, but the very last one is interesting again to compare just head count versus open enrollment in and out versus homeschool. So that's where you can kind of see the gap. I mean, we had as many as, we were over 30 to the negative with open enrollment, you know, 3, 4, 6 years ago. Now we're down to, you know, 19 is the difference. So that gap is shrinking, so that's a good thing. The homeschool totals are not total yet. We're at 60 right now. The last time I checked, like last Thursday. They have until October 15th to apply to be on homeschool. So I just go in there and check the numbers. So again, sorry, I kind of geek out on the enrollment data a little bit, but so you guys get some.
How much does that 521 differ from your projection at the beginning of the year?
Actually, when we'll go through the revenue limit worksheet later, and we're two to the plus from what I projected back then, so pretty close. So yeah, we're actually 2 better. So good question. So any other comments, questions?
That homeschool thing sure bit into our numbers, didn't it?
Yes.
So are we on a yearly, bi-yearly, daily type of a time frame touching those families and planting seeds of, you know, get your kids in here. We've got an FFA program that'll do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And kind of marketing ourselves to them to get those kids into the district again?
I think somewhat. I think we can do more. There's different ways we've considered to do it. We've definitely, over the years, I mean, I can just think anecdotally, we've definitely had a number of homeschool kids who have dipped their toe in and said, hey, I like this, and they've come in and become regular students or become part-time students, you know, taking a couple classes, or some of them took a couple and then became more full-time. Yeah, it's one of the things that's the challenge, and we've talked about it at this table before, is how like you mentioned, FFA or choir, wrestling or whatever. When the law changed several years ago, requiring schools to allow homeschool students to participate, there's a little bit of that element of kind of have your cake and eat it too. Homeschool, but yet I can still play on the volleyball team or the football team. I can still come and take a couple classes and be in the band or the choir. And I do think that maybe if we didn't have that, it might help our efforts a little bit to say, hey, there's a lot of great things to offer here for the whole child when you come to school, outside of just the classroom.
Maybe you could offer them to come in for a week and
Mhm.
come and experience school for a week.
Yeah.
And
Do they have to show any sort of record for the curriculum that they purchase?
set them up with a mentor or something.
Not
They
necessarily. No, they have
So
to.
they can just
yeah.
get,
They register online on it's a thing called OPAL. It's on the DPI webpage. It's an acronym. I can't remember what it stands for. Oh no, sorry, Homer. OPAL is open enrollment. Thank you. It's the same login for both. Yeah, Homer. It's called. It's their acronym. And if they register legally on there by October 15th, they're considered homeschooled. And there's
how they spend that funds
they don't get funds.
and they don't?
No. And they, there's, I'd say from what I've been told in Wisconsin, there's not a ton of accountability in Wisconsin. So I will say, there's a lot of families that do a good job, very good job with it. And I do think it's part of the reason we see these numbers go up. Obviously, they jumped up during COVID and just kind of never came back. And I think we've said too at the table that it's easier to homeschool your children in 2022, 2025 with technology nowadays. So there's more parents, I think, willing to take it on. But yeah, we are, we're declining. 75% of the districts in Wisconsin are declining right now. So some more severe than others, certainly. But
Well, I wonder if it doesn't warrant us actually kind of getting together and spending some time and putting a plan together to if we have a culture problem with that, to maybe address the culture problem, not only within our own staff, but the whole community, just to get these kids in here. And if we get a number of them in here, a percentage of them may, enroll before they graduate. The other thing too is we're going to be talking about some of our budgetary needs coming up. We need kids in our district. This declining thing is really gonna put a pinch in our budgetary ambitions. So that's why I bring it up again. Is we got to hit them. I think we should start advertising to our neighboring districts too. That's just my thing. But if we could come up with a way to get some of the transients back in here for some reason or another. I mean, we've got quite a thing going here. We're a conservative school district, and I think people need to know that. In some ways, but other ways we're not. We've got a heck of a menu that we can provide people for their kids, and I think that everybody should know that. I don't think everybody does know that. So that's my 2 cents on that, I guess.
And it's kind of a good time to bounce off of that too. We can't share it publicly, but we got our preliminary state report cards back last week, and we won't be able to share that till probably the December meeting when they become public in mid-November. But there's some really good news on there, so we're really proud of the work that's being done with our entire team. So I'm seeing some nice gains on our report card. So
Right on. All right. Anything else on the third Friday people count? All right. Next item of business is our strategic plan scorecard preview, Pillar 1.
okay. So the last time we touched base on these, was that just a month ago? It seems like it was so long ago because we've done so much of these. We tidied up when we closed out the 24-25 scorecards because we had that academic data come in and have a chance with our teams to look at it in August, early September. So now we take that screening data we had at the different grade levels throughout. We had screeners, academic screeners done here in September, and then the principals with their teams were able to sit with the teachers and begin to look at that and break down data, and then see where we're at and start the cycle over again. So we're going to probably not have to go as in depth on the information on here as maybe we've done in the past as we've gotten more into we kind of got I feel like we kind of have a flow a little bit, like with these conversations when we touch base on these now. And I think as a board, you know, what's cool is you guys are very familiar with talking about this data and stuff, which is really neat to share, because I don't know that that's common with all school boards. But one thing that we kept in mind is we're not really looking to overhaul our goals. You know, we want to stick. If you're changing your goal every year, you know, then you're not really doing anything. So we're trying to stick with consistency and try to target the growth. Changing the numbers that we're shooting for, certainly stuff like that, but not really in the things that we're working on. So we're just it's just pillar one is what's on the calendar for this month, which is the academic and the student focused things. So I can't remember who usually goes first, Brian or Teresa?
I can go.
Doesn't matter.
So if you take a look at the high school scorecard, like Mr. Peterson said, there's not a lot of change as far as what exactly the goal states. It's just a change in we're tracking each class compared to their scores the previous year. And so with our juniors, we're setting goals based around their ACT scores and doing things throughout the year to try and meet those goals. One thing that we did add in this year, if you remember last spring, I talked about in this building we have 3 different state tests. We've got the forward exam at 7th and 8th grade, we've got the pre-ACT at 9th and 10th, and we've got our juniors taking the ACT. And one thing that I found that helps me predict what our kids coming into high school are going to do is their percentile rank from their forward exam score. And so with that in mind, with each grade level I added in, example being the second goal on there, the junior class will increase their ACT class percentile average over their previous year's pre-ACT score. So I added that in because I want to be able to eventually track our kids from 3rd grade all the way through 11th grade when they complete the ACT based on those percentile scores. So the juniors and the sophomores have that. The freshmen only have the percentile average because I don't have anything to go off of. This is going to be a brand new test for them. So it's difficult for us to predict what they're going to get on that ACT. We could look at their pre-ACT or their CERT score and make a prediction off of that. But also my thought is if we can raise their class percentile rank by a little bit, that means we've grown. And now the following year, we can start to set those ACT or pre-ACT and ACT averages. Our 8th graders, nothing's changed there except that we're adding in the percentile rank for both of those. Under promote growth, we are trying to shrink the number of kids that are finishing in that bottom category. So it's a 1 through 4 scale with 4 being that we're above the benchmark, 1 being we're not meeting it. We're trying to shrink as much as possible that group of kids that are in that 1 category or that basic category, both at the high school and the junior high level. One goal that we added this year under support well-being is our rate of chronic absenteeism has gradually been on the rise for a couple of years, and so we're putting some things in place to try and fight that a little bit. So chronic absenteeism is you're considered chronically absent if you've missed 10% of the school days, so basically 18 days, and that's 18 days for any reason. So even if there's excuse, it doesn't have anything to do with truancy, but they're still missing 10% of the school days, and research says that's hurting them academically. So we've got a number of things in place right now, strategies in place to try and decrease. We were at 17% last year, and our goal is to try and get that under 10% this year. And actually that is a factor on our state report card as well.
I was just going to ask you.
And so that will potentially, if we can reach that goal, it's going to help us on that state report card as well. We're going to continue to get more and more kids involved. Last year, 84% of our high school students were involved in a club or a sport. We're going to try and raise that up and get up closer to the mid-80s and continue. We've identified the kids that are not involved, and we're working on looking for areas that they might be interested in. And last year, we had a huge gain in the school perception survey for our 7-12 kids when we asked them, if I need help, I have at least one adult I can talk to. Last year, 92% of our kids agreed with that statement. We want to see if we can knock that up just a little bit. I think we're playing with fire a little bit there. 92% is pretty good. I don't know if we can get much more than that, but we're going to try. We have a number for Encourage Future Goals. 95% of our in-person students will complete 100% of their grade assigned Zello lessons each year. Zello is our academic career planning platform that we're using, and so the CT department last year put a number of things in place to try and make sure that these things are happening. And so we have a number of things going there. We want all of our in-person students to have opportunities for college visits or workplace opportunities. Last year, 100% of our kids did, and our goal this year is that 100% of them will again. And hopefully, or not hopefully, many of them will have 2 or more of those opportunities. And then similar to last year, all kids are filling out an academic goal sheet, which has been completed as well, and we're tracking that throughout the year. We're checking in with those on a monthly basis. I threw a lot at you, but it was most of it is what we've seen now for 3 straight years. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I didn't mention, but we do have fall data hitting on the right-hand side as well, as we just got some search results back that we've been working with. So we're starting to plug those numbers in, and so we got a starting point.
Wonderful.
All right.
Let's go next.
Okay. So the goals statements have not changed for the elementary. Checking that forward exam, we take those spring scores, and that'll be how we are setting our goals. We'll take that test again in April of this year. One of the things that we've done now the past 2 years, going into our 3rd, is every 3rd through 6th grade student sits down with their teacher and does an individual goal setting, and those will be shared at conferences this coming Thursday and next Tuesday. Copy will go home, so it's to be reviewed, and it's not just, certainly the goal is to increase their forward score, but it's learning habits as well. What is keeping you from being the most successful? How can we help you with those things, such as getting to bed on time, not being on my tech, those kinds of applicable, tangible things that maybe could assist in the success that they have at school. The foster high levels of learning for all, so we also did all of our fall assessments. One positive thing this year is we do have Ames Web now, all the way through, starting here in the fall for our kindergarten through 3rd grade. Last year we had to switch kind of mid-year, and it was hard to follow the success of that to see if we were making the gains we wanted. So it is a little broken down, K1, 2, 3, just because they do look at certain things. KN1 is a composite score of a variety of different reading assessments, and 2nd and 3rd is something called the ORF, where it's an oral reading fluency. Research shows that if you can read orally, clearly, fast, within a 1-minute time, it does show that all of your reading competencies are coming together well. So 4 through 6 is still doing the Fast Bridge, and we are hoping, as you can see, with our KN1, posting some pretty high grade level scores, maintaining or increasing throughout the year on those. Math, a little easier to kind of clump the lower grades and the upper grades separately, and came in with some pretty high scores. So our teachers were excited, but obviously we are excited to grow those as well. Promote growth. On the 2nd page, just reducing those gaps. Those are the kids that are scoring below benchmark. There are different cutoffs for that. Ames Web is the 25th percentile, and FastBridge is the 30th. So we actually, as a district, we just met and had our data days last week. We look at 40th. So our teachers are well aware. We know all students. Every student in a class needs something differentiated for them and needs something what they need at that level. But we want to for sure look at our 40th and under to make sure that those kids are getting that extra intervention, not just the 25th and under. So we are targeting a larger span of students. And one of our goals this year that connects to our IDEA identification is math. And so we are, the last couple of years was very reading focused with all of the Act 20. We've got so many great things in place, and now we haven't ignored math, but now we're just really getting more systematic on how to implement some really key instructional pieces for math. Our support, well-being, recognized strength has not changed. Wondering if that increase by 2% could be maintain or grow, because we're at 95% of elementary students from the spring that said they had somebody who they could go to that they trust. And then we do those positive postcards that come out each year. Hopefully your kiddos received one or two over the past year or two. And then we also start Zello with our 6th graders, and that's implemented with Mrs. Van Hoeklem in the guidance classes.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson.
Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Powers?
Okay, so
Special
again,
ed.
mine is pretty similar to what I've had in the past. I just kind of broke it down a little bit more so you can see. So looking at 3rd through 6th grade for 4 percentile average, increasing that for ELA and math, and increasing that by about 6% from this year to next year. Math, same thing. For the junior high, it'll be the percentiles for forward again, and you can see the numbers there from where they were to where they are going. The only thing that will be maybe a little bit of a caveat with these guys is 7th and 8th grade may fluctuate a lot more, just because there's only 2 grades and you've got kids moving from 6th grade to 7th grade, and that's a big change. Whereas 3rd through 6th, we have a lot more kids with disabilities that we can find like an average of, versus having maybe 12 to 15 kids in the middle school. So then senior high, again, we'll be looking at the 9th and 10th graders for their pre-ACT, increasing their average pre-ACT over the year, from 1 year to the next. Students in grades 11, again, will be ACT. So this was where their average ACT scores were for the kids that took it. And again, 11th grade, every year fluctuates. We may only have 4 kids that take the ACT. We may have 7 kids that take the ACT. Just depends on how many students with disabilities are in the 11th grade. So we'll probably see some fluctuation there. Promote growth. I kind of, from last year to this year, I had it kind of broken out between ELA and math for like 2 different goals, and this year I just kind of combined both of them together, but I broke it apart on the table so that you could see. And then senior high, again, it's pre-ACT and ACT composite scores that I'll be looking at. Last year we looked at kids that had a composite score of 11 and below. This year I want to look at kids that have scores of, 10 or below, because we wanted them to have no one not below 11. So we had a number of kids that were 10 or below with composite scores the year before. This year, when I went back and looked at all of our composite scores, we had nobody that was under a 10 this year. So I bumped it up to scoring below the 13 for a composite score, and just keep trying to get that up slowly. And then support well-being and recognize strengths. That is, again, that's I can't kind of break that down out of the other surveys. I can't break those kids apart. So it comes to say the same survey numbers of the elementary survey. And then the same thing for the high school, junior high, senior high, with the 84% involved in club, and that 92% of the students agreed. Though I am thinking about, is it this one? No, it's the next one. So I've left that there, but I have thought about maybe putting in the Same with absenteeism. Just because some of the absenteeism have been some of our special ed students.
We need to just track that,
Mhm.
the students with disability.
Yep.
If you guys can get to 98% with the that one goal from 92 to 98, that'll be impressive. That's a high bar.
6% of 92.
60%.
Oh, 60% of 92. Got it. Oh, yep, you're right. Yep, 6% of 92.
Which is
Not
still-
adding
which is
6%
still-
on to 92.
Which is still 92 is already pretty high. That's good.
So, and then encourage future goals. I think, so picking 3 of the strategies listed next door, which we did last year. I'll have started the goal tracking sheet now. But I am thinking about adding one more and putting, since we are really doing Zello with 6th graders and above, being able to track to see which kiddos have finished their Zello in those grades.
I think that was one of the unique things that we did last year that you did, Dawn, with Encourage Future Goals was that tracking document. And I think, for our students with disabilities, that's such an important part of what we're doing to support them is to be talking about what are their plans beyond school here. That was a
So that's one that I
unique thing
haven't
we did.
totally decided on, but that's one of the ones that I'm thinking about doing for at least the high school. Because right now my tracking sheet is for like the high schoolers. So then I can easily put Zello in there under that and track and make sure to see if they've completed Zello or not. So.
And some of the goals you'll see across the scorecards are similar, the same. And like Dawn said, with some of the engagement and well-being, it's hard. You can't really break the special ed students out from that. But to have the goals still there then drives the conversations among the staff that works with kids with special needs to understand, like, hey, we want to make sure we're working with our students with special needs to get them involved in activities outside the classroom, just like every other student. So.
One's forward.
As far as the district-wide scorecard, mine, we try to have it be a little bit of a higher, like 30,000-foot view, a little bit higher. But a lot of the data, is built off of what the schools are doing. So for the academic high levels of learning for all, we look at 3rd grade ELA and 8th grade math, and those are 2 factors that they look at for the state report cards. So that's a good one to look at. And just looking at, we use that goal setting sheet to look at how big is the sample size of students you're working with and where are they at currently. If they already are performing at a high level and it's a large group of kids, you're going to have a smaller percentage that you're shooting for. If it's a small group of kids, you can move them more. If they're already performing at a little bit less of a rate, then you can shoot for more ambitious goals. So those are some of the thought processes we use as we go through these. And just talking in general, when we work on our scorecards, so prior to these meetings with the board, when we report in, we'll meet for a couple of sessions usually for a few hours each, and it's intense. Like, we're sitting around this table here, and you think about, you're diving into all this data, and we're helping each other out and asking, well, what do you have here? And okay, I'm thinking about this. Is this right? And we really get into some great in-depth conversations, and we get a little loopy sometimes too when you're looking at all these numbers and all this information. But it's a interesting process to do it, but it just really gets us focused on the right things, and then that allows us to then focus on that with the staff. So I really want to commend our administrators for the way they are driving these conversations with the teachers and with the staff. And this, it holds us accountable to make progress, right? We've heard that phrase before, like when we worked on this whole thing, it's holding ourselves accountable to make progress. And the day-to-day grind of the busyness and the craziness and the daily fires and the brush fires that go on in the buildings, it would be easy to just let that consume everything that we do with all of our time, but this helps bring us back to what are the big picture core things that we need to focus on. And it's really hard work because you're pulling yourself away from all that building management to say, all right, I'm going to take a half a day and we're going to really dive into this, but it's forcing us to do that good work and have those great conversations that are meaningful and keep us at our core of what we're all about here. So I'm just complimenting the team here and the work and their leadership with this. So, another thing I wanted to point out under the promote growth, you'll notice how, like for the high school, you'll see CERT in the fall, CERT in the winter, and then ACT in the spring. So it's like, well, that's two different tests, right? But they are correlated to each other. So the CERT is based off of ACT, and so we are comfortable doing that because there's a very strong correlation. The CERT is built off and scored the same as the ACT. So, at the elementary level, we use AIMSweb for K3, but we use FastBridge for 4 through 6. That's not a problem. They go 3-4 years using one, then they go 3 years with using a different one, and that's okay, I think, to have different types of assessments to come at kids with different angles, because we've learned different things about the different assessments and kind of what how they're gauged, I guess, the best way to say it. So, if we go down to the district level, well-being and recognizing strengths, we use the school perceptions tool for a lot of that data, and the first one there, most days I like my school, will increase, and that's one area where we were below the comparisons, across the nation. So that's an area where we want to, we had a great conversation with our staff at the last in-service about how do we dive into that and do a little root cause analysis of, let's find out what is driving those answers with kids. The percentage of students, engagement. If I need help, I have at least one adult I can talk to. We're blowing away the level there. We're way above the percentile of comparison schools. So one of the strengths of our district we recognize is connections. We have a lot. Again, we have 84% of kids participating in activities. So connections is a real strength for us. But we have areas to work on with engagement and things like that. So and encouraging future goals, again, kind of reflecting using that Zello tool. So. I don't know if there's any other questions for about Pillar 1. That's a lot of information, it always is, but it's important, meaningful work.
All right, well then if not, we'll move on then to our budget preview.
Okay, so back in August we have the preliminary budget and we have our annual meeting. I did do, some of these numbers get a little small on some of these sheets, so I did make paper copies.
So, can you go ahead and get to people at the tables too?
So we talk about the different variables that start coming into play as we get into the fall here. And so what I did with this revenue limit sheet is I marked it up before I made the copies so you can kind of see. So the first part on page 1, those pink boxes with the enrollment and the FTEs. So the first line there, the 11 with a check mark next to it, that's our number of FTEs for summer school. So there's a formula. They take all the kids that come to summer school, figure out the minutes they're here, and it goes into a formula. We had 11 FTEs. That's what I projected back in August. And then Matt's question before was, hey, how did our FTEs turn out in comparison to what we projected? So we projected 525, and we're actually 527, which is good, a little bit better. The thing is, though, when you average it out with the other 2 years, it averaged to the exact same number. So it goes over to that green number on the side with the other check mark. 543 is the exact same number that was in there in August. The new thing there where it says new estimate. So this is the total equalized value of all the property in the Clear Lake School District. So it jumped up to $446,867,000. It was like 406 was what we had on there in August when we did it. So I had a 0 increase at the point. This estimate comes from our partners at this is not from Baird. This is from the Department of Revenue. So I think that number itself is pretty spot on, pretty close. So that just impacts the mill rate, just because there's a higher property value. So if you go to the second page, so this is where we start to get into the financial formulas. And again, the main things that are changed, or the only real things changed, I put an asterisk next to them. So item number 8 in B on the left, you see a little star there. So there's $64,878. That is transfer of service dollars. So that is, I've mentioned that we had a number of students move into our district with some extra needs like paras and so on. So what I did in September is submitted to the state different reports and documentation, and it's verified by the other entity that they come from, that the students come from, another school district or Head Start or whatever it may be. And then it goes into a formula. You don't get a dollar for dollar, but you get like 2/3 of it. So that's actually, those $64,000 go into the whole Equalize Aid formula. So that's a good thing. So that raises our revenue limit $64,000 to help pay for some of those people that we've had to hire. And then if you scroll down a little further, the next estimate, $207,000. That is an estimate, and that is the amount of aid we pay out, which we are then allowed to levy for private voucher schools. So last year that number jumped up to like 192,000. So we're projecting a small increase there. So 207,000. That's one of those final things that we won't find out till like end of next week or middle of next week, or no, sorry, end of this week I meant to say. So then you see line 11, the total revenue limit. That's when you factor in all of the non-recurring and recurring exemptions. So $7,741,162. That's our total revenue limit number. And then the number right below it, that's the percent that we'll get of it from state aid. So $5,070,396 comes from state aid. The rest of it, the other part of that formula, comes from our local tax levy then. I want to make a note too. A couple of things impact. One of them, Milwaukee. So Milwaukee I believe was the term I was told, overspent. And their budget is in the billions. So they overspent like by $100 million. Which is again not a huge percent of their budget, but that's a huge dollar amount. They're the biggest district in the state, so when they get more state aid into the formula this year, that means every other district in the state is impacted by that. So because the biggest school district, because their formula changed, that affects every other. There's a pot of money. And so they get more, so that means the public schools, so we get a little bit less. So I think we have figured it out. Like I said, I was working with Elise from Baird. I think it's about $57,000 it impacts us that we get less state aid. So that's $57,000. We don't lose the money, but it means $57,000 more on our local levy. So just something to be aware of. So then we got that $2,670,000, and that goes down into the pink boxes below. So those top two that are next to where it says revenue limit, they can't exceed that number. So our general operations are the $2,190,000, and then our that $480,000, that is our non-referendum debt schedule. So the project back in 2013-14. And then the items down below, the $495,000 and the $70,000, those things exist outside of the revenue limit. So that's the referendum for the construction project in 2014, and it's our community services. That is outside of the revenue limit, but then all that totals into the total levy. So projecting a $3,236,706 levy, and the mill rate of 7.24, which is slightly, what was last year? 7.48 last year, so slightly down from last year still. Slightly down from what I projected, I believe, in August too. So we've got a little bit more revenue due to some transfer service, things like that, but we've also, our levies up a little bit due to the little bit less equalized aid that we're expecting. So, but just remember, voucher stuff is still an estimate. The estimate of general aid is still an estimate. So those are the things that we'll find out here in the next week. So, questions on this? The next page is just for your information. This just shows the different levels of property value change in the different municipalities that we have. And then one thing to note is as you go over, certainly you see, certain parts of the different townships, for instance, Vance Creek, 52% of it is in our district, whereas New Haven, only 3.9% of that township is in it. But you go over 2 columns to the right where it says percent increase, decrease over previous year, you'll notice that the overall growth rate averages out to 10%, or that's the estimate, 9.9% increase in property values. But you'll notice that some of them, for example, Vance Creek is at 13.9, it's above 10. New Haven, 12.6. And then you've got others like Black Brook, 8.6, below 10%, Clayton below 10% at 7.4. So understanding that when we do the levy, that different townships will get impacted a little bit differently based on how their property values have gone up at different rates. So those townships that are above, or those municipalities above the 10%, will get a little bit more of the share of that pie. So the last page is, I just like to show the historical thing every year. So what I'm projecting, just kind of added the info in there, but again, $3,236,706 for the total levy. The total equalized value is listed there, so that gives you the mill rate of 7.24. So the mill rate's down from last year, 5%. The total levy is up from last year, 4%, 4.2%. At August, I think we said 3.14%, so it says a little slightly bit more than that. And then just for perspective, I have up, if we go back 10 years just to see, look how it's changed. Our levy has gone from 2.1 million to 3.2 million in 10 years, but our property values have gone from 200 million to 446 million, more than doubled. So that's why you see that mill rate going down. So, and then also just the lowest ever mill rate back in 2023 at 6.86, the highest ever that I can find on here in 1992 when the mill rate was 20.17. So just to kind of give the perspective over the years how things change. So a lot of information. What I'm trying to do is just kind of give a preview so that when we come into the budget meeting October 27th, people have kind of seen this one more time, have a little talk about it again, and hopefully it should be getting pretty close to this. One of the things we'll do next week is I will finalize the revenue limit worksheet, and Eve and I are continuing to work on, just as the school year has started, we've made little adjustments to staffing. We've had to add a couple people, or we've had some different expenses that we don't have or that we do have, and we're able to adjust. So we'll keep refining the budget here over the next few weeks, best we can, to tighten it up even more, and then bring that to you to approve the levy and the mill rate in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good, Chris. Thank you. Okay, any questions on the budget? Next time of business then is review of homecoming.
So principals maybe have a couple items to share, just some highlights. We had a nice week last week. So
We had a great week. So a couple highlights for us, and some of the same things that keep coming back. Our outdoor night on Monday night is always a good night with the bonfire that follows. A huge thank you to TJ and the fire department for helping us out with that every single year. Powder Puff, things with homecoming come and go. They gain popularity and then they lose popularity, and we try new things. But Powder Puff is one that is always right at the top. I don't think that's ever going anywhere. It's always a big hit on Wednesday. We had 122 people at the dance on Saturday night, and so that's a 9/12 dance. Obviously some guests from other towns as well, but 122 of
168
in the building, so that's a pretty good turnout, a very good turnout. And then athletic teams had a great week too at home. So our cross country got to host their meet down at the Chalet, which is an awesome spot for them to host in October. And they had a good showing down there. Volleyball team had a really nice win Tuesday night versus Spring Valley, and then football finished it off on Friday night with a win over Elmwood Plum City. The parade on Friday afternoon was great. I don't have a count of how many floats, but it sure seemed like we had more floats this year than we've had the previous 5 years. So it seemed like a really good turnout for that as well. Huge thank you to Mr. Crawford, who puts in a lot of effort to make this a great week for our kids. A huge thank you to Mr. Vitalis. It's a busy week for the band. They did a great job with the halftime performance. And then also shout out to our police department and fire department who help us out a ton during this week.
Elementary is a little more low-key, and it also coincided with Fire Prevention Week, so that worked out fun. So we had an assembly on Monday morning and an assembly on Friday morning. So we were excited that the band and cheer could come over for our pep rally on that Friday morning. We successfully transported 270 kids down to a parade. Thanks to the village crew, Aaron Burr and his crew, for blocking off every street that could be blocked off so we could make our way down there. And it was a beautiful day for a parade. Best weather we've had in a long time. I do want to get this on record. Mr. Rosine and I will have a float of some sort next year. I'm not kidding. We are going to do something. So I want that on record because he doesn't think it's going to happen. So we'll be right after our elementary students walking, right before the high school starts their stop. It's happening. So just want to get that on there. Starting a new tradition.
And the elementary principal walks through the parade every year. Might as well, the assistant principal
Well,
better do it too.
Yes, we will be doing something. So.
Yeah, lots of thank yous to go out, and yeah, it's and also Friday gets a little different, but just throughout the week trying to find that balance between the fun and we're still in school for the week and we're still getting things done, and again, our staff and our principals do a nice job of striking that balance, and but it's just a great week to help build culture and build our school spirit for what it is. So.
The community ed did a great meal
Phenomenal,
too.
yes. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, the event, the tailgate on Friday was phenomenal again. Yep. Big credit to Wendy Scoggins for organizing that again. So.
All right, well, thank you. The next item of business then is discussion of the WASB State Ed Convention.
Yeah, so just mentioning that, and earlier this year, we've said it informally kind of a couple times, I've shared some info, but they're doing it different this year. You can't register, or you can't get a hotel until after you register. So November 3rd, we'll have the, for sure, have nailed down for sure who's going to go. And then Eve will, at 8 a.m. November 3rd, we'll start registering, and then grab some hotel rooms. So they're trying to change things up a little bit from how it's been in the past. People would kind of go book all these rooms and kind of hoard them, and then it was kind of a mess. So trying something different this year. So and also it's a big commitment because it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is the convention, but we leave on Tuesday. So if there's somebody who would say, hey, I would go, but I only want to go for a day and a half or 2 days or something, that's always an option too. So it is a lot. I mean, I find it to be a lot to be gone that long, but it's good stuff. So, and I know, Matt, you've expressed interest for sure. Corey for sure.
Yes.
Nettie, you're thinking, yeah. And so I don't know if Greg or Christy, obviously we'll put it out there again, but yeah. So. Any questions about that?
We'll be doing that.
No.
Okay.
All right, next item of business, reminder of special board meeting Monday, October 27th.
Okay, so again, just we have to have we'll get our final data from the state here after the 15th, and then we'll crunch everything together, and then before the end of the month we have to have that budget approved so that we can then submit our tax levy to the state, and then produce our tax bills, which we send out to the municipalities by November 4th, right? November 3rd, November 4th.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that tight timeline, so every year we have that special meeting. So my question to all of you is 5:30 normal time, 4:30, go earlier? What does everybody think or want to do? Doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't matter to me either.
I'm game for 4:30 or 5. Let's see if we can move it up a bit. That'd be great.
You okay with
Works,
it?
yep, I'm
Yeah,
good with
what do you
it.
think, Matt?
So you just tell me the time.
Good to go earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know Christy's not here, and she maybe is the one who has to travel here the most, but
We don't need to have
That would be quorum.
We need to have a quorum, which is 3, and we need to have a majority of the full board vote for it, which is 3. So even if there were only 4 people here, at least as long as 3 people vote in favor of it, we would be able to pass our budget. So,
4:30 then?
should we say 4:30?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
4:30.
On the 27th.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And you'll send a reminder.
Yeah, I will send reminders out. Yes.
Is our next meeting?
So that's our next meeting. So yeah, Monday, October 27th, 4:30.
All right, then the next item of business are new board policy updates and approvals.
Okay. I know I've been saying this a fair amount lately, but this next group of policy updates is a fairly bland one too. When I went through it with our representative from Neola, some of them even, like I said, gosh, could almost be technical corrections. There's not much of a change to them. And actually, too, I didn't put the technical corrections on here. I'll put that on the next group, because we got a round here this month, and we'll do second reading, and then I'll have another round of first reading next month too. So the first one is definitions, and if you scroll through, and I forgot my little cheat sheet of kind of a summary of each one, but you scroll through, there's not much highlighted. You see the highlights in green, and that's the changes, and there's not a ton in this one. Notes about foreign exchange students, smartwatches, and the difference between common school districts, unified school districts, union school districts. Otherwise, that's pretty bland. I don't know if there's any comments about that, questions about that.
It's got to be exciting to somebody, right?
That's why we have those attorneys. The next one is copy of it's the 0144.5 board member behavior, communications, and code of conduct. And again, it's just some word changes. If you scroll through, it's just like a word change here or there. This is one that unless I'm forgetting something. Someone's trying to call me. Any questions about anything you see in there? I think they're pretty bland. If there aren't any, the next one is library media centers. So this was a newer policy a few years ago that was kind of a more big ticket item at the time. What this part is adding to it is it talks about the reconsideration of library materials and the policy and procedure to follow there. And what a lot of districts have been adding is item number 4 there. They added the line, the individuals, the person that if they're making a complaint or request for reconsideration, one of the things they add is the individual's familiarity with the material, and they add the clause, including how much of the entire book or resource being challenged has been read by the complainant. What they were finding, in different cases across the country, or even some lawsuits, is that the people were making complaint based on not anything they have read or have experienced, but it's like mass mails that go out of action groups saying go challenge these books, and then people make a challenge and they haven't even read the book. So it's just person needs to state that. Have you actually read the book? How much of it? 4140, termination or resignation. And this was just making choices of majority vote of the board or by the district administrator, and we say that it's by the board. If someone is being terminated, that's generally something that we would bring to the board for board action. Support staff employees subject to termination, and the choice we made is may be given an opportunity to resign, not shall. It may. There may be some cases where that's not an option. And then we did check the district administrator may act for the board in the acceptance of a resignation. And the spirit of that is, so again, if we have someone resign the day after a board meeting, we don't meet for another month, that's allowing me to accept it, to say, hey, let's get this job posted and move forward before waiting a month before the board to accept it. So that's the spirit of that one. 4213, student supervision and welfare. Again, this is kind of a different one. Letter B and C. Support staff members shall report unsafe, potentially harmful, dangerous, violent, or criminal activities or threat of these activities by students to the district administrator. And when it's capital D and capital A, that means not just specifically me, but me or a designee, so like a principal too could be. And local public safety agencies or school officials in accordance with this other policy that we have for school safety. It's just kind of beefing that up to match up the other policy. Support staff should not volunteer to take on responsibilities they are not reasonably qualified or able to perform. So again, this is not meaning something that they've been assigned to do. It's meanings like taking on a volunteer position or a volunteer activity that I'm trying to think of a good example. When Ed was here, he had a good example, and now I can't remember what it was, but that's added in at the suggestion of the attorneys from Neola. 5112 is entrance age. No changes to this. We do not have an early entrance policy, so that's not something that we're selecting. We removed the early admission. Before we had Neola, we had a clause about early admission, and since then, and we pulled different districts in CISA 11 at the time, and pretty much almost nobody had an early admission policy, so we're choosing to keep it that way. It has been a much better situation to just say, no, this is the cutoff. This is the strict cutoff that we use. Verification of residence at the time of registration, we do that already. And again, just some wording changes. Any questions on that one?
Older students, a person who is a resident of the district and over 20 years of age may enroll, providing the district administrator does not anticipate such enrollment will interfere with the education of other students.
Yep. So if we have a student who maybe was not able to graduate on time, comes back to us and says, hey, I got this one credit I'm short, I think we want to leave that opportunity. That was the thinking behind it. We want to leave that opportunity open for that young adult to come back. Or maybe they're 40 years old and say, I just want to get my diploma. So, but again, we get to take into consideration, like, is this person going to cause a district? If they're going to take a virtual class through us to get that credit, great, or something like that. But yeah, we're not going to have a 25, 28-year-old walking the halls with the kids.
Well, do we get state money then? I mean, if somebody enrolls as a 20-year-old?
I think so. I mean, if they're a full-time student, they would, yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Maybe that's
check
how we
on
get
that.
our numbers up.
Yeah, more adult education. No, that'd be a great question. I would think so if we're educated, but that's a good question, Greg. I don't know. But yeah, obviously it gives the discretion for us to say, no, we're not going to have, adults walking the halls with kids. Promotion, placement, and retention. Okay, so if you recall, last summer we had to have a new policy, particularly related to third graders to fourth grade with the new, wait, is it third to fourth or fourth to fifth? No, third to fourth. Third to fourth with the new Act 20 stuff. And as recommended, we're not, our policy for having to do summer school and things like that doesn't go into place until 2027, which is what everyone's doing. They've already identified areas to shore up this policy, so that's good. So there's just a few things they added into here. It refers back to that policy, and then talks about the appeal process. Any person appealing a decision regarding promotion to grade 5 or grade 9 shall submit a written appeal within 5 business days. State the portion of the policy they believe was administered in error. District administrator will meet with the parties involved, issue a written decision within 10 days. And again, we've always had promotion policies in place, and it's not the philosophy of our school district or the DPI or education in general that retaining kids usually leads to good outcomes. So the policies always are stated in such a way that there's opportunities for remediation or opportunities for put additional supports in place for kids to stay with their age level peers. 5411 is third grade promotion and retention. Again, that's what I was referring to, getting ahead of myself a little bit, but again, changing some of the language in there already and the definitions. This was the new policy that every district had to have. Cleaning up some of the language on parental notification. So the DPI had kind of waited till the last minute to put out their guidance. I'm sure because they were also parsing through all the language of it. So it made it kind of hard to write good policy, and because there was those timelines in place. So they've gone back and cleaned that up a little bit about some of the requirements for parental notification. So again, this doesn't go into effect until a couple of years from now, summer, July 1st of 27. So, and then the last one is early graduation. And that's a very rare thing for us, and we would keep the practice that we've had where the board makes a final approval on early graduation applications. That's how we've done it in the past. I mean, I can remember one since I've been superintendent, and I can remember maybe only a couple since I've been here. It doesn't happen very often. So, any questions on that one? Okay, so we'll have them up for second reading next time around, and I'm not hearing any questions. If you have any questions later, let me know.
All right, next item of business are the superintendent notes.
Okay. It's that time of year where we've been doing a lot of DPI reporting, and it's what goes into a lot of the data that helps us build that equalization aid formula. So last 2 months, Nettie signed all the calendar report, the census report, the energy efficiency report because of the program that we have from our project in 2014. Transfer service, I talked about. Summer school pupil count we did at the end of August. We did the summer school transportation at the end of August. Eve takes the lead, and I work with her at aid certification, annual financial report, school level annual report, all those things. Certifying what money we spent last year so that the DPI can have accurate numbers to roll forward to figure out that equalization aid. Special ed annual report was due at the end of this week. Third Friday account we had a couple weeks ago. I want to shout out to our transportation crew. We've had some real staffing challenges with some health issues with some of our drivers, and so thank you to the whole crew for filling in, but especially Tom Osmondrud and Nick Crawford kind of pulling some double duty, driving a lot of routes, doing their regular jobs. So Nick teaching and then leaving during wrap early and driving. We made accommodations in the building for that. He enjoys doing it, but he's very relieved to be done doing that. Tom doing his other jobs and then picking up routes because we just have a limited number of substitutes. So we've had the substitutes that we do have. Those guys have been doing some double duty, so thank you to them. We've gotten a few of our drivers back now, and so we're in a better place. So. I went to the WASDA Fall Conference in Madison a couple weeks ago. We've been enjoying the Dunn St. Croix networking meetings. The superintendents, the principals, and the ADs meet. It's a great group, and I think we found it rewarding to get with that group and get to form those relationships in our new conference, so that's a process. Fall sports is wrapping up. Volleyball has a chance to win the conference outright. They've already won a share of it. But if they win their 2 conference matches, Tuesday, Thursday, they could be undefeated conference champs. So cool way to enter the new conference for them. Marching band has been going a lot this fall, and they wrapped up their season Friday night. We had a great in-service day a few weeks ago. A lot of great professional learning communities work being done, led by our principals. A lot of goal setting, a lot of work on educator effectiveness goal setting. We spent some time in each building. I came over and did a presentation about our school perceptions results. So if you recall the presentation that Rob did with this group in June, we shared that recording and then also just talked about it, did some activities where the teachers kind of dived into some of that, some tabletop conversation. We had Allie Call from CC11 come and work with the elementary staff about some of the inclusion work with special education. And then we also had our partners from SF Insurance come in and just review all of our health insurance. It's been years since they kind of gave an overview for all the employees, like how does your health insurance work? How do your deductibles work? So that was good. So we have an AI workshop we're going to tomorrow, a couple of us. We're at CISA. We've got CLAMA coming in on Friday. The Ministerial Association is meeting with us on Friday. We do an annual thing. So a lot of, busy time of year. Good start to the school year overall. Lots of challenges, lots of intensity with just everything going on, but a really good start to the year. So, That's all I got.
Okay, very good.
I
Mr.
just wanted to
Peterson.
say that the band sounds good too.
Yeah.
All the homecoming activities, I think Mr.
Yeah.
Vitalis is doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes they are small in number, but they are big in sound. You know,
Yes,
pep
they
band,
are.
marching band, sound great. And, you know, he gets kids pulled away from different activities or, you know, football players that aren't out there, and they still sound great, yeah.
Excuse me, very good. Well, the next item of business is our contemplated closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85, paragraph 1C and 19.85, paragraph 1F. The board will discuss staffing and staff compensation, and the board will consider finance, medical, social, or personal histories or discipline data of specific persons. I'll poll the board. Eddie?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Myself? And Matthew?
Yes.
All right, we're all here.
And there we go, recording.
All right, we're back in open session. Future agenda items, anybody have anything they want to put on a meeting?
No.
I do have one. Let's talk about our phone usage and stuff in the schools one more time.
Cell phones?
Cell phone, yeah.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.